Obligatory not my story. My best friend was traveling cross country with her mom before planning to break off and fly to Alaska to meet a friend. They landed in Seattle and had a hotel pretty close to Mount Rainier. She wanted to hike, but her mom was tired and did not want to. She set off to hike some trails alone and told her mom approximately when she should be back. She didn't come back. I woke up the next day to tons of messages asking if I had talked to her. She was even on the local news. She lost her footing taking a picture and slipped down the side of the mountain. She stayed put for about 24 hours. Slept in a tree stump with her jacket over her liking moss for hydration. She said after the first 24 she felt like no one would find her. She attempted to hike out, find a trail that might get her back to where people are. During the hike she fell into a ravine catching herself on a tree hanging out of the mountain over a bed of rocks. She tried, at first, digging holes in the side of the ravine in an attempt to climb out, but it didn't work. She eventually gave up, settling on the tree stump, more or less waiting to die or be found. After 30-something hours a helicopter flew above her, and she did a full body pull-up, something she had not been capable of before, to maneuver herself onto a high rock, to try and get their attention, and they flew by. She told me at that point, she assumed she would die stranded. An hour or two later she heard rescue calling her name and saw flashlights. They were able to locate her, but she was so stuck a rescue had to be lowered down and get her up to higher ground, and she then had to hike or be carried. She opted for the hiking while tied to another rescue to even higher ground that an ambulance could reach. She was taken to a hospital. She survived with some hypothermia, scratches, and bruises. It was honestly a miracle to me. No broken bones, no long-lasting physical damage. Definitely a lot of mental struggles, but she's doing wonderfully today. She survived and got a tattoo of the mountain on her bicep to show it. I have a few drownings. I have almost drowned twice in my life. The first time happened at swim practice when I was roughly 5 or 6 years old. I found out that if I let go of the ledge in the 5-foot deep part of the pool, I would bounce back up from the bottom. This became kind of a fun game for me to pass the time. One day, I decided to play that game in the diving pool that is 12 feet deep. About halfway down, I realized I was wrong. After that, all I can remember is surfacing briefly and seeing the terrified looks on my mother's and grandmother's faces. My mom was apparently the one who saved me. The second time happened when I was probably about 13 or 14. We were visiting my mom's work friend and her family at their lake house in New Hampshire. The lake had a massive drop off that I did not know about until I stepped off it and proceeded to sink. My little sister, who is taller and stronger than me, swam over to try to save me, but I, in my panic, started plunging her under the water in my desperate attempt to find anything to keep myself afloat. My mother fortunately found a shovel among her friend's child's beach toys and held it out for my sister to grab. She grabbed the shovel, I grabbed her, and my mom pulled us both in. Blood clot. This happened when I was 20. I had just gone on birth control as I had just started dating, and you know, best to be safe. However, around July, I noticed that my ankle was really hurting me. I just assumed I had sprained it running away from the fireworks that I lit. My family shoots fireworks in the backyard for the 4th of July and didn't think much of it. However, the pain only increased to the point that I was actually actively complaining about it, which I only do when I'm seriously in pain or upset. My mom ignored my complaints and just said that I probably had a really bad sprain, and if I just rested my leg up, I'd be fine. One night, I had my legs propped up on a pillow to try and alleviate the pain when my mom came out of the kitchen to ask me what I wanted for dinner. She then noticed that my legs were now swollen and discolored. They were turning this grayish blue color. She called the doctor, who said that I had to be taken to the emergency room. I thought that I had somehow broken my leg. To my surprise, the doctors and the ER said I had developed clotting in my legs that led to pulmonary embolisms in the lungs. Had we not caught it when we did, it could have been fatal. I ended up spending a week in the hospital that summer. And that's how I discovered I'm allergic to most forms of birth control. Elephant. I was 21 and studying abroad in South Africa. One of the activities our small group did was go on a safari in Kruger National Park. Our bus stops to look at an elephant when a weird smell wafts in through the window. The best way to describe the scent is that it is very similar to a horse's smell. Anyways, the guide said yeah, that smell means the elephant's about to attack. And sure enough, if you looked closer at the elephant, you could notice its flared ears, its feet pawing at the ground, its nostrils flaring angrily. Our bus driver floored it out of there, and the elephant did end up charging into the street before glaring at our departing vehicle. Was using intravenous heroin for half a decade. I overdosed more times than I could probably count on both hands during those years. Just happened to wake up without medical intervention most of those times. Towards the end I overdosed 3 times in about the span of a month. Twice in my ex-boyfriend's bathroom, once in my childhood bedroom, after he kicked me out, and I had to go live with my mom. 2 of the 3 times resulted in being taken by ambulance to hospital. The only thing I remember thinking, as I sat on my ex's couch in his living room getting Narcan sprayed up my nose, was that he would not come with me to the hospital, and that he would kick me out. I was expecting it all to come crashing down immediately. It took more time than that. I think he was in shock at my almost dying on his bathroom floor. I certainly wasn't expecting it to happen, and I was the one doing the heroin, so I can't imagine he was. Anyway, I digress. I'm a little over 2 years clean from all opiates today. Currently halfway through a nursing program. Trying to do something good in the world to make up for being a junky piece of shit for half a decade. One of my ex-girlfriends had a mentally ill ex who couldn't deal with the fact that she had moved on and started seeing other men. There came a night when he decided to drive 600 miles, stealing gas from gas stations on the way, to kill us. He was very much high on speed. It was around 1 AM when we were at the apartment getting ready to go to sleep when he arrived in the building, took a fire axe, and started to break down the door. He managed to destroy it ridiculously quickly, and there he was standing in the hallway all foaming at the mouth and such, with that axe in his hands. I pushed the girl to the fire escape, but he was already between us, so she escaped, but I couldn't get past him. Those hallways were really narrow, and the guy was huge. I didn't have anything to fight him with, so I ran to the other side of the apartment and jumped out of the window. 4th floor. There are 2 reasons I survived. First, on my way down one of my feet hit another apartment balcony railing, and that rotated my entire body, so I wasn't falling feet first. Second, by some miraculous coincidence, there were going to be sidewalk renovations the next day, and there was a big pile of sand dumped in front of the building. I somehow landed on that pile of sand. The guy decided to go after the girl for some reason, but she had enough time to get to her car and drive away. I had a dislocated shoulder and a twisted knee, but I managed to crawl into a cab that was standing nearby and the driver helped me out. I was around 6, on a family vacation to the beach. We were all in the ocean, in about 3 to 4 feet of water. I told my mom I was gonna do a backflip. I think I blacked out for a few seconds. I opened my eyes underwater and just started swimming, having no idea which direction was up. It hit me that if I exhaled, the bubbles would go to the surface. They went in the direction opposite of the one I was going in. When I finally surfaced, my mother hadn't even noticed. I was driving home with my motorcycle and drove over a oily part of the road because a car was losing oil. My front wheel began to wiggling to right and left very quickly, but I kept calm and began to pumping the front brakes in order to slow down, and I was heading straight into a tree on the side of the road. Eventually I managed to gain back the control and came to a complete stop on some cornfields instead on the tree. I'm glad that I only got my leg burned by the exhaust pipe and I didn't lost my life. The front wheel sank into the dirt and caused a immediate stop. One time when I was around 11 or 12, I was folding towels. I finished and went to go put them in the cupboard storage area. That's when I tripped over the basket. I thought nothing of it until I started feeling bad sharp pains in my liver and stomach area. The next day, the pains were still there. My dad called the Kaiser phone service and told him to take me to the ER immediately. Turns out there was fluid around my liver and I might need surgery. I had an 4th CAT or cord scan, MRI, 2 blood draws. Turns out I was okay, no surgery needed. It was an interesting experience to say the least. My Boy Scout troop was headed on a 4-hour drive to a summer camp just a couple of weeks before I was supposed to move halfway across the country. I had plans to ride in one vehicle and, right before we were supposed to leave, I changed my mind and rode with a different truck. We were only 20 minutes from the camp and the car I was supposed to ride in got into a head-on collision, killing the leader and seriously injuring the other boys in the vehicle. I'm pretty damn lucky, and if I hadn't switched spots I would have had a massive concussion, severe whiplash, and some broken bones. God was definitely looking out for me that day. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more daily 6 PM Reddit uploads.